This is the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. It's Monday, March 31st, 2014. This is a live broadcast. In case any one of you were wondering, I'm Doug Hagmann, not in studio, but on the road with Joe Hagmann, my co-host. Together, we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Folks, we are traveling back from the Prophecy in the News conference that just wrapped up yesterday. Sunday, and we're making our way across Florida. We actually are right now broadcasting from the Atlantic, near the Atlantic Ocean. I'm looking out of our studio. Well, our what we fixed up here as a studio, brought our equipment with us, and looking out over the Atlantic Ocean. And here it is. It's Monday, so it's great to be with you. Missed you folks last week. We had just extraordinary, just a punishing schedule. Got to tell you this. During the week last week, of course, we had a live broadcast with Steve Quayle on Monday, and things after that kind of went a little bit loopy. We had travel time, and we had things uploaded that didn't quite go. We had Greg Jackson, that interview scheduled. And, in fact, we uploaded Greg Jackson's interview. The interview played, however, and I got some comments about this. It sounded like there was a discussion during Greg Jackson's interview. Well, there's a lot of post-production that happened in the post-production, as best we could tell from what we heard. But that happened in post-production in readying the audio for the replay. So we're cleaning that up. We do have a stellar clean file. We're cleaning that up, and we're going to be broadcasting that. Not tonight, but we're going to be broadcasting that again. And, of course, Greg Jackson's going to be with us later on next month. So this is all good. Folks, you're listening to the only show where we believe the news is presented to you in 3D, multidimensional format, 3 dimensions, that is. We look well beyond the headlines, the bylines, the fog of disinformation, misinformation, and bring you the news behind the news. And we stopped today and happened to see the news, and of course they're still talking about the missing aircraft. They're still talking about the same old things that they were talking about a week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. It's incredible. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight. Thank you for your patience, and I mean that, patience as we work through these very interesting times together. I have a very important show for you tonight, extremely important, and a lot of information to give to you. I want to say this. Joe's getting, actually, where we're at a hotel that we're using one of their rooms to, they're kind enough to provide a room for us, a private room, and to give us the ability to broadcast using their internet connection, and it takes a little bit more than a normal hotel connection would take. So I want to thank them for that. Now, having said that, our home base, HomelandSecurityUS.com, folks, we're going to be having a lot of new information posted to that website here very shortly. We also have some interesting pictures from the conference, great pictures from the conference. We had talked to people like Bill Salas. We had Doc Marquis, of course. Had time with Paul McGuire. It was just a great number of people that were there. I'm interested in chat. I'm kind of monitoring chat right now. I'm just wondering, folks, who might have been at the conference. Do we see any of you there? If we did, I just want to say thank you very much. It was great to meet a lot of people. We met a lot of people. Met Beth from the chat room, of course. I don't see her in there now, but thank you very much, Beth. Vic, of course. Met Mark. My goodness, I could just go on and on. Monica, Jessica, God bless you, and so on. Thank you so very much for being part of our lives. We were humbled by the reception that we got. We're going to get into, Paul McGuire had said, he said, Doug, people were asking about you guys. And he said people were asking about you, and you're mysterious. You were dropping off, or hiding. Well, we had meetings, private meetings, with a number of people during the time that the conference was going on, and we're here to tell you pretty much what the consensus from those private meetings were. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't watch the conference, or if you weren't there to secure live streaming or the streaming of the conference. Absolutely, it's imperative because the information was just phenomenal. But the backstory, folks, is something incredible. If you can do me a favor, those people in the Blog Talk chat room, can you just tell me, how is the audio? Is my audio okay, or is it breaking up, or is it clipping, or just kind of somebody just give me a, yeah, it's an okay thing, or good, thank you, okay, good, thanks, very good, all right, perfect, all right. By the time we get back to the studio, hopefully we'll have some additional equipment there that'll actually, we'll be able to control the callers coming in. And for example, guests like Steve Quayle, we've had people say, "Wow, his voice just resonates," and others don't. So we're getting some equipment that'll tie into things that we can actually, hopefully, fix the audio on that. But ladies and gentlemen, let me just say this: I believe right now, based on the conference, and where Joe's going to be coming on here shortly, I think he's working with the equipment that he had an equipment failure with his computer, which is rather interesting timing. We are at the most dangerous time in all of human history in this country, and along with other nations of the entire world. I've got to say, hang on just 1 second, folks. Let me just do this. Let me see if I can help Joe here by plugging something into a power outlet. I don't know if that had done anything for you, Joe, but there you go. I'll just say this. We, along here in America, along with other nations, we are just one crisis away from falling into the most brutal global dictatorship that we have ever known. This is the consensus of the people at the conference. What makes this time in history different than all other times? Obviously, it's technology. A lot of what the conference had talked about, the technology, about the DNA manipulation, about all of the things that we're facing. We have the most sophisticated, right now, the most sophisticated surveillance technology that the world has ever seen. This is what we know about. What we don't know about 10, 20, 30 years ahead. Technology that can spy and virtually control our minds, our thinking, our thoughts. And that might sound like total bogus science fiction, but it's incredible. The technology we have can predict what we're going to do before we even do it. You've heard of the trends, the reports, the web bots, the various things on the internet, for example. This is exactly what we're looking at. The surveillance technology can take over our personalities, and they can monitor our thoughts. And you might think, wow, this is just crazy talk. And I would 5 years ago, I would told you that, but no, they can't. They can monitor our dreams when we're sleeping, our thoughts when we're awake. Folks, there's not going to be anywhere to run or anywhere to hide. I talked at length about this in private with Paul McGuire. And by the way, I'm going to be putting some photographs up of us at the conference on the website here after the show. Furthermore, we've got biological, nuclear, chemical weapons of mass destruction that can wipe out all of humanity in a very short period of time. Are we not seeing Ebola outbreaks here take place? Are we not seeing problems in different countries? Due to what I would say the critical nature of what we're facing, it's absolutely essential that we understand how we can look into the future, discern the differences between fatalism, prophecy, and understand what is our personal responsibility, yours, mine, together and individually, as the final warning signs escalate. We need to know this. And a lot of people are looking at the situation that they face today. And I saw this at the conference. I heard this at the conference. What can we do? I mean, it's over. There were a lot of people who have this fatalistic mindset. Now, I'm not saying everyone does, nor am I saying that this is something that is not warranted. Certainly, you can feel that fatalism, but we are instructed to occupy, and by occupying, of course, that means fighting, and we have to fight. But we are not fighting from a position of defeat. We're fighting a formidable foe, to be sure, but we're not fighting from a position of defeat. We're fighting from a position of victory. Please understand that. And by the way, prophecy, as we look at it, because of the conference, prophecy in the news, the prophetic speakers that were there, folks, prophecy was never intended to paralyze us with fear. We are to use prophecy as a method of to energize us and to motivate us and to educate us. I saw from what I had said, I was live for, 20 minutes on Thursday, and that was part of the Greg Jackson interview because of the overlap of the post-edit production stuff. I took the show down. But it's interesting, the information that I talked about on Thursday, and we're going to get into this in the second hour a little bit more about what's coming up. We have information. We came down here, by the way, a week early for a reason, and one of the reasons was to amass some information in the west coast of Florida for that directly relates to the Arpaio investigation, the Zula investigation, the origins of Obama, the crash of Loretta Fuddy, the death of Loretta Fuddy. We're working hard on this, and we're working to bring to you folks a report of this investigation. And I think it's absolutely imperative that we bring this information to the forefront. Others have this information, the raw data. So if anyone has designs on whatever, shutting me up, of course, or shutting us up, well, it's going to be too late. That information's already backed up several times over. But it's important to understand that we have just a tremendous number of people around the world who have accepted a very false understanding of prophecy. People look at themselves as essentially passive spectators. It'd be like sitting in a movie theater, eating popcorn, watching everything unfold on the screen before you. Well, that's the mindset of one of the most deadly spiritual deceptions there is, and the opposite of what the ancient prophets, the Hebrew prophets, the apostles, and even our Savior have taught before the beginning of time for such a time of this. And I always say that everyone is born and is living for a specific reason at this time. You've got a job to do. We weren't called to just sit back on the sidelines and watch everything unfold. If you're listening to this broadcast, you're doing it deliberately, and we want to thank you for that, but you're also doing it to receive instructions and information and to receive, to be with like-minded people, of course. Again, we're not called to sit passively in this cosmic movie theater and watch the last of the days just pass us by and say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. It's interesting, too, because I spoke with Paul McGuire. We had a meeting with him for quite some time in the morning on Sunday. We were talking about America. Where's American prophecy? And it's interesting that we both believe that America does have a future in prophecy in the prophetic times ahead. And we're at the crossroads. The crossroads that we take right now are going to spell out either death and destruction or a legitimate end times revival. Now, I do believe, from what I've seen, that there is a revival of the remnant, and you are the remnant. The people at this conference are the remnant. I couldn't believe how many people were there, by the way. Wow, it was incredible. And it was humbling as well. But there are things that we must do, and we must look at, and we must understand. and we must be part of this occupation and fighting back. We're fighting back against just a very formidable foe, and I just want to say that our work is cut out for us. But I'll tell you what, we will in fact prevail. I have no doubt about it. The prophecy in the news conference, and again, those people listening, I want to thank you very much for coming up and introducing yourself. I wrote, if you watch me, I wrote some names down, or your name down, and Cherie, God bless you, and others, God bless you for everything you've done. Vic, thank you so much. But I just want you to know that we are so appreciative of you talking with us and introducing yourself. Al, my goodness, didn't try that burger place that you recommended, but nonetheless, we'll be back down to do that. But nonetheless, we've got a lot of things here to cover that overlap with the prophecy conference, and then the second hour we're going to be talking about a little bit more about what I attempted to talk about on Thursday. And what I had mentioned on Thursday was the Subud cult, the Subud organization, and the Subud connections between Loretta Fuddy and Obama and Obama's mother and the Sabarka name. Now, there's been some YouTubes made about this, but it's incredibly important. There's more to it. And it's interesting, I got a couple of emails, one from someone who was reportedly part of this Subud group saying it's a red herring, and I've got other people saying the complete opposite. And I will say this, I did get a
Good
very...
evening, Hampton. This is Donna. How may I help you?
I did... Hello? Did I just... Wait, am I hearing something here? Am I still on there? All right. Well, thank you very much. That was interesting.
Okay, here I am.
All right. Can we?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. But I just got cut off of everything here. So. Okay. Well, everything in terms of the interface with the people. Sorry about this, folks. Live radio from the road. Very interesting. Okay. How's that? There we go.
I'm late. Apologize for the tardiness. Trying to get computer to work when the internet was working fine all day. We go to do the show, and of course one of the computers has to turn off the capability to connect to the internet. So it's expected.
All right. So
I hear you, and I see you're back up there. Okay.
Okay. So in the chat, you can hear us both, right? Chat, everyone. Thank you. Okay. Just curious, are we the controlled opposition? I'm just curious about that. All right. Yeah, I just saw something fly by on the chat, Joe. I don't know if are you, I can see you. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I have no chat capabilities.
Okay. All right. So is somebody saying that we're the controlled opposition?
I think that's a name of a chatter.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think that all that sunburn you got fried more than the skin on your body.
Yeah,
could have fried some of those brain cells.
And I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for putting up with this little blurb here. I got to say that yesterday, by the way, we got to Orlando, and I mentioned we got to Orlando.
You're cutting out pretty good.
Figures. We got to Orlando last Sunday, and for the entire week it was very cloudy, rainy, cold. It was, of course, nothing like we left, but nonetheless, I didn't go out in the sun. And then last night or yesterday afternoon, for I don't know, it was about an hour and a half. I sat in the sun briefly, and I was reading one of the books that I picked up at the conference, and I came back in, and I had my shirt open, and I came back in, and I thought, my goodness, you Friday, I got my shirt. I was only out there for 2 hours. Bottom line was, so brain cells and skin cells fried into the wilderness. But I'm glad you're with me, Joe, because now we can talk more about the conference. We spent some time with Doc Marquis, very interesting man. We spent a lot of time with Paul McGuire. Spent a lot of time with others, including, by the way, Bill Salas, who wrote Israelistine. We talked about what's going on in Israel. Met a gentleman, or Mark Bills, about the blood moons. That book is fabulous. We talked with Russ, who's going to be on our show.
The Shroud of Turin gentleman.
Yes,
Russ Barut, I think his name is. I don't know if you're butchering that last name, but we got a special little talk with him in the Starbucks of the hotel.
Absolutely.
Right before we left on the second day of the conference.
But
the way he presented, I mean, we were there maybe 15, 20 minutes talking with him, and the way he presented the case for the Shroud of Turin was just fascinating in that short time, and I can't wait to get him on the show. But we talked with so many people, whether they were speakers or listeners to the show, and I can't thank everybody enough for all the coming up and saying hello, letting us know you're a listener. It was really fun while we were there, and looking forward to going to Montana. I know more people were here in Orlando, and it was much bigger. But I mean, just the people are all great. It's great to have like-minded people around. Everybody who's thinking the same way. We heard a lot of stories from a lot of people about family situations, friend situations, work situations, about the sediment.
That's it. Yeah, Joe, we need to talk to everybody because we want to give you hope. We talked to so many people there. I didn't mean to cut you off, and you can continue with this. But what was the common theme with respect to just about everyone to a T, everyone there? What was the theme about their families and their friends and their jobs?
Well, the common theme from the listeners we talked to is, and some of the speakers, is that whether they were co-workers, friends, or family, somebody in their life would think that they were absolutely crazy and that there's something wrong with them.
Exactly. And I'm here to tell you that you're not crazy. You're ahead of the game. And here's what I like to say all the time, but I'm going to reinforce this, folks. When everything does start to fall apart, and it will, I just want to let you know that they're going to be coming to you for advice. You will be the smartest person in the room by their standards, because you will have an understanding of what's taking place.
And we talked with some speakers about real-life situations, storing food, precious metals. What are the possibilities of things that could happen this year and in the near future? And surprisingly, many of the people who we talked to, the speakers said they weren't ready. I mean, who's ready for what you see happening coming down the road? And that, I don't know what you meant by that gesture, but is the volume okay on your end? You hearing me? You just give me a thumbs up.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
There's a little bit of a delay, and you sound a little bit muffled. But every time you move that receiver there, it just kind of does make a noise.
Yeah, and I'm on an actual old-fashioned telephone here. I can't use a computer as it's broken, so I'll try my best not to move this thing around.
So actually, folks, if you can picture this, and this should give you a little bit of a chuckle. We've got three computers. We've got some electronics piled here. We've got cords everywhere, and 2 cell phones. And he's actually using a hardwired landline. Okay,
the only thing that worked.
Go figure.
The only thing that's kept me connected this long, so I'm going to stick with it.
And that's fine. That's fine. But one of the a couple of things going back to the conference. And Russ Dizdar too. Oh goodness, it was great. But one of the things I believe, folks, a common theme among the speakers is this: time is short. This conference this was different than previous, and those who attended can attest to this. The people in private, the speakers in private, certainly the public presentations said the same thing, but privately there was a sense of urgency among the people. And I felt this urgency. Joe, I don't know, you probably did too. You felt this urgency among the attendees, right? People like us, right?
And a lot of people, among the speakers said publicly that they see this year as a year that we will not come out of the same country. And the different opinions and research theories or solutions that they've reached through their methods and what their information says. We had lots of speakers with lots of different topics, and they all had this urgency. They all thought that something would happen this year that would change the way we live or change things as we know them permanently, or how we live, how we need to live, how we are going to have to live after whatever happens. It could be an economic event. It could be a natural calamity. But it's not, and this is one thing that we continue to say, it's not a prediction that something bad's going to happen. It's the sentiment of the people attending a prophecy conference and many of those speaking. No, I did not say that this would be the end of the world. I did not say that this would be the end of the normalcy that we have here in America, but they said that this could, potentially, best case scenario, you look at an economic situation. How much can one withstand, without having access to money and to buying food or gas on a regular basis with the convenience we have today? These are things we're going to need to think about, and not in a panic type way.
And that is
And I can't hear you.
That's because I muted myself. I do this all the time. And, of course, when you moved, you knocked my papers off the desk here. But in the second hour, I just want to remind people, the second hour, we're going to be talking a little bit about what's going to be taking place with the investigations we've done since we've been down in Florida. Again, this is not, we didn't come down here for the sunshine. And it's a good thing because it hasn't been there. Or the warmth. We did come down for other reasons. Also, Tuesday, on this paper, I just want to make sure you know, tomorrow, Tuesday, Stan Deyo, going to be talking about what happened in California, the earthquake, what that means. And I think Stan nailed that, by the way. That happened this past Saturday night with that 5.1 earthquake. He's going to be talking about what that means. Yeah. And it's going to be live. Not tomorrow night, we're going to be broadcasting live from North Carolina. God willing, and of course, if the equipment works, and it does, but it seems like the infrastructure that we're using is not. But anyway, so...
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Go ahead. What?
What we were just talking about, the article from Zero Hedge about the civil unrest. We see these articles. Martin Armstrong warns this is the age of civil unrest. And it goes on to say all governments had better open their eyes, for we are on the brink of a major convergence between both the cycle of civil unrest, civil war, and revolution and international war. Both of these models converge, as I pointed out, at the Cycles of War conference. This is the first time I've seen this convergence since the 1700s. Goes on to say this is no plain modern event with civil unrest erupting because of an international world. The grassroots uprisings cross-fertilize perhaps from a world contagion, yet they often have similarities, corrupt governments, and it goes through the countries from Turkey, Ukraine, Thailand, Venezuela, Bosnia, Greece, and to the Middle East, besieged by people angry at misgovernment, corruption, and economic depression. These days are no longer just dictators who have something to fear from the crowd. This is the promise of a Marxism that is centralized planning, and false promises are coming home, and governments are too corrupt and incompetent to deliver what they have claimed for decades. And they go on to list several factors from manipulating markets to interest rates. And actually, one of the gentlemen who is a supporter of the show we talked to there was a money markets manager, and he was telling us some information about how major clients were acting with gold and silver.
Oh yeah, you've got to listen to this, folks. Well, I'll just say this. Imagine being having a lot of money. I don't know, millionaire, but having a ton of money, and ordering precious metals. What, millions of dollars of precious metals with a future delivery date. And
waiting on that delivery date. To the money market manager, the guy says, "Well, just hold them." I'll ask, how long does it take to be delivered? Okay, and when I call you, you deliver them. Well, months go by, and all of a sudden, a few days before, or a few weeks ago, I should say, you get a call for the delivery of that physical metal. Now, there's a couple situations like that with certain individuals that we heard about. Also, the Israeli embassies closed their embassies across the world, and they put up a reason as to why they did that. But there was a lot of people, especially speakers, who were concerned about this, wondering if they're not preemptively withdrawing themselves from the embassies due to something they were going to do, which would be, in the response from whoever it was, they figure their embassies would be attacked in other countries first, so they pull their people out. A preemptive move before taking overt action. No. And I can't hear you.
I know. I mean myself again. Okay, this is a very serious situation, folks. The closure of the Israeli embassies is extremely serious. This does warrant our attention because what's going to take place here? I mean, this should be a canary in the coal mine, Joe. I mean, really, it's got to be.
And we didn't have a lot of time to do research today. I don't see anything in the news that they did, whatever their cause, or they said the cause was for the closures of the embassies. They had not said or resolved that yet. So that's one thing that I have to continue to look and keep an eye out for. And we have, as you said, the 5.1 earthquake that happened in Los Angeles. We had a 4.8 in Yellowstone and a number of aftershocks up there. I want to say Saturday or Sunday, I believe. And, we see these trends of these earthquakes. And that new movie, Noah, was released this weekend. Of course, the night of its first showing, or I don't think it... premieres come out on, what, Tuesday, usually? The Fridays, okay. Thank you. So, you got people going to the opening night of Noah in Los Angeles, and what happens there? 5.1 earthquake. This is said to be one of the most unbiblical, unhistorical, accurately accounts of the actual biblical version of Noah. And many people, I heard a Christian radio station down here, I think it was called Moody's, and this was when we were in Orlando, and they were talking about the responsibility of, by managing the household's money, is it financially responsible to take your children to a movie that's so biblically inaccurate, yet portraying a biblical story. And it was a very interesting talk, I heard, but the main opinion of people were, no, you cannot, regardless of how they market it or what they say about it in the previews. There have been critics. There have been people that come out and say this, they made Noah as an environmentalist and worried about climate change and all this and that. It was interesting, but, at the same time the earthquake hits, that's kind of amusing to me, but at the same time, you got to look, because the longer that these people continue to mock God and to mock Christianity, to twist it to what they feel it should be or what their own agenda is going to make it to be, there's going to be big problems, and it's going to continue.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the presenters at the Prophecy Conference, his name William Koenig, wrote a book called Eye to Eye, Facing the Consequences of Dividing Israel. You've got this peace plan coming up, and of course we talked to Bill Salas about this. We've briefly spoke with the writer of the book, Bill Koenig, about this. Folks, if you have not heard about this book, Eye to Eye, Facing the Consequences of Dividing Israel, Bill Koenig makes this extremely detailed and a very intelligent comparison between our meddling in the dividing of Israel, and specifically the division of Jerusalem, and creating this multi-partitioned state in the Middle East, with the biggest disasters America has ever faced. And he goes to say, what were the 10 costliest insurance events in U.S. history, the 12 costliest hurricanes in U.S. history, the 3 of the 4 largest tornadoes outbreaks in U.S. history, 2 largest terrorism events in U.S. history. All of these major catastrophic events began or occurred the very same day or within a 24-hour period of U.S. Presidents Bush, Clinton, and George W. Bush, applying pressure on Israel to trade land for promises of peace and security.
Yes, it is. And you started to break up there, so I'm jumping in.
Go ahead.
No, it is
Go
interesting.
ahead.
I started reading that book Eye to Eye, and it's from 2008. Yet it does get into, so it misses some of the things that happened at the very end of Bush presidency, the beginning of Obama's presidency. But it goes through each negotiation, each deal, each time that a member of the U.S. in the capacity of senator, congressman, president, advisor to the president, cabinet member, makes a statement, meets with an Israeli leader, and urges or pushes them to split their land in a two-state solution, something terrible happens, and it documents and catalogs each event, each time somebody opened their mouth proclaiming that Israel needs to be split. Some mega disaster happened, and especially when they actually started, Ariel Sharon and George Bush physically, with their militaries obviously, took settlers, Israeli settlers, up to 9,000, out of the Gaza settlements and West Bank settlements they were settling in. Not a couple days later, Katrina hits.
That's right. That was the Gush Katif movement, displacement, where they actually took bulldozers. And imagine this: you living in your home, and suddenly, let's say it's on the border of Canada or Mexico, and all of a sudden they bring bulldozers in and bulldoze your houses and make you into refugees. It's incredible. But folks, I got to tell you, the book Eye to Eye, fantastic documentation. It's got a foreword in here too by Senator James Inhofe. Very interesting how this is all set up. But watch the embassy closures. Watch what happens here in the near term with Jerusalem, with Israel, and of course our meddling in this. I want to get to this article, or this story, I shouldn't say article, this story real quick here. We do know a couple of things that we need to talk about. We need to talk about the fact that North Korea, South Korea, that situation's gone hot. Why? Why has that gone hot? When I say gone hot, there's rockets and mortars being exchanged between North and South Korea right now. Why? Folks, do you know why? Well, it's part of the reason. We are taking part in a proxy war. Right now we are looking at a proxy war take place where China, well, the proxy for China is North Korea. Of course, we've got troops, and we're the allies of South Korea. As we put pressure, and as we deal with the Ukraine situation, as our Western intelligence services are dealing with the Ukraine, as we continue to go into Syria, of course, mischief is going to happen in Korea. China is going to put pressure on North Korea to start something in the Korean Peninsula. At the same time, it's going to go against Japan.
Yeah, what I'm reading here, and I think this might be the same thing you're reading from, but what they're saying is the North is not happy with the progress it's made in fixing the solution of the disputed lands between North and South Korea, and that these missiles that were fired, none of them were aimed at any military installations, or it says no shells from either side were fired at any land or military installations. But Kim called the North Korea artillery firing a provocation aimed at testing Seoul's security posture. There was no immediate comment from North Korea. Now, obviously, any kind of hostilities we're going to be played up in the news, as there's no shortages of real stories that need to be talked about. I mean, we see, as I said, we talked about the earthquakes. One aspect of those earthquakes over the weekend we haven't talked about in Los Angeles is the fact that many geologists and scientists are saying that this is just a precursor, that they're under an earthquake warning. This is something we have to look out for. And, there's an article up there now, signs of an earthquake of North Korea prompts nuclear test fears. The location and depth of an earthquake did not immediately suggest North Korea nuclear testing was the cause, but it was off the Korean Peninsula Tuesday morning. The U.S. Geological Survey said magnitude 5 earthquake was detected 80 miles off the Korean Peninsula. The earthquake, which was said to have occurred approximately 3:48 local time, took place at a depth nearly 10 miles in the sea west of the Korean Peninsula, just days after North Korea threatened to carry out a new form of nuclear test. So while you have the skirmishing going on between the North and the South, launching missiles, and they're saying, on the headlines, it's gone hot. Maybe it has, but just not for the reasons they're saying so. Or maybe for reasons they don't want to say.
We're going to be talking to Stan Deyo at length about this and in depth about this tomorrow. Again, tomorrow will be a live broadcast as well as we make the journey back north. I do want to respond very quickly to a couple of things as well. Infusing the prophecy in the news conference, Gary Sturman and Bob Ulrich, great guys, great people. Got to meet Bob, talk with Bob quite a long time, about 3 days ago now, and fantastic people. So, by the way, things are really progressing. But one of the things that I got from this conference, and in fact, where is this? I had spoken to author Mark Biltz. I don't know how many people are. Biltz, Biltz. I don't know how many people know of his book, Blood Moons. Folks were talking about blood moons coming up, and it seems like we're kind of like going all over the place with topics, and we are, but we're going to circle back around and kind of wrap or put all this together. But one of the things that we spoke of course, we all know that the blood moons are coming up here very soon, and I kind of blew that. I don't know, folks. How do you feel about that? And, of course, it's a rhetorical question, but how do you feel about the existence of the blood moons and the blood moons coming up? It's kind of something that I wonder about. And I found a couple of notations or statements in Mark Biltz's book, and we're going to have, like I said, we're going to have him on as a guest, but it made me think a little bit. The Proverbs 25:2. It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. Now I'm paraphrasing pretty good there, but I think, folks, you get the drift. We're seeing signs in the heavens. We're seeing signs on the earth with the earthquake and the earthquakes, the volcanoes, of course, that Stan talks about. And I think it's our job to take a look at what these mean. We're seeing signs in the heavens and on the earth. And are we not seeing? Have we not been told to look for signs in the heavens and the earth? Of course we have. Of course we have. And one might say, and one might argue, that we don't know the day or the time or the hour, of course, but certainly we should know the season. And I think that the season is rapidly approaching, if not upon us. And the other thing, too, I learned this from Mark Biltz as well. Folks, and you can use this as well in your own personal situation. It's difficult to argue, for example, music with a deaf person. This is not to demean people who cannot hear, but just think about that. If you cannot hear, or if you're talking with a person who cannot hear, who's deaf, how can you have an intellectual argument about music? The same goes with a person who is blind. How can you discuss a work of art, a picture, a photograph with somebody who's blind? It's an impossible situation. Just think about that. As your frustration grows with your family members, your friends, your bosses, your coworkers and whatever. Just think about that. But the reason those quotes were brought to my attention by Mark, and I want to thank him for that. And of course, I think they're contained in his book, Blood Moons. But we're going to be talking more about the significance of the blood moons. I think that there is something there that we need to pay attention to, given the fact that they're falling on certain Jewish
and everything that's surrounding the blood moons, the news events. We've talked about this before. The negotiations for the Arab-Israeli peace, or the Palestinian-Israeli peace deal that they are pushing. They continue to push this peace process. They continue to threaten Israel. They continue to set deadlines for the peace to be agreed upon by both nations. And this is, as I said and have been saying, the biggest threat I see to our country. I would say the same thing if it was Canada's government, doing this to Israel. It is our government instead, and we have a historical blueprint that shows what happens when we do this, and it never ends well for people in the United States. Also, the Yellowstone earthquake I talked about, the 4.8, that was the largest in Yellowstone National Park in over 34 years. Things are definitely continuing to get strange as far as weather patterns, geological patterns, signs in the stars, moon, and skies, and they're going to continue to get strange and stranger. And you said this throughout the conference too when talking with people, how everyone has a tendency to look for a huge event to happen to start things off or to kick things off. Well, there have been many small-scale events that are large. You can't solve the puzzle by looking at just one piece, or you can't connect the dots by focusing on one dot. You have to look at all the dots as a whole. And when you see the amount of dots that are on the board today, it's different than it was 5 years ago. It's different than it was 10 years ago. And now we are seeing, more and more areas where dots are coming in where we never had these before. I mean, UFO sightings, is however people may observe those or what they think about those, are doubling, tripling, in the last year by year. Many things are
exactly.
These droughts, these natural disasters, these bank runs, these other country, these country overthrows and unrest we're seeing. We still have civil wars in Syria and Iraq, in Turkey, in countries across the Middle East. We still have a disintegrated bank in Southern Europe, in the countries of Southern Europe. Their banking industry is decimated. High unemployment numbers. We have countries now focusing, like the U.S., on North Africa, building army bases there, building drone bases there, stammering for resources. Preparing for what?
Very well said, and very well. That's extremely important to pay attention to. By the way, I just want to say hello, Anna. Thank you very much for your email, Anna. Met your husband, Eric, and your friend, Ann, from Oklahoma. And I apologize for not being able to meet you. We are in different places at the conference, but God bless you. Thank you very much, Anna, for checking in and for saying hello. But with respect to all of this, and at the conference too, I just got the idea that if you would compare this conference to perhaps the one previous, I wasn't at the one previous, but I spoke to a couple of
Colorado.
people. I'm sorry, that's right, Colorado. I didn't mean previous in Orlando, but the one in Colorado. I guess I would call it the consensus of spiritual movement, the feelings within the people. It's almost as if the way I described going to a gun show after not having been there for a number of years and having gone to a gun show recently is the fact that, 5 years ago people were talking about bagging buck and shooting buck and that type of thing. Now it's for an entirely different reason. And there's a sense of urgency behind the people who are attending these shows. Same deal. with the prophecy conference. The people who were at the prophecy conference at this time were there, and they brought people. A lot of people who wouldn't ordinarily have come, and they're saying, "Look, we can feel something's in the wind. We can feel something is happening." Just want to say something here about a situation, and I think this is important. I just want to, in case you missed this, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the things that I really am extremely concerned about here, and I think everyone needs to pay attention to this. There is a situation right now, if you've got money in 401ks, in your retirement, whatever, just consider this. You look at Obama's first term, and it's just not Obama, it's Congress, it transcends the right-left paradigm. But the Obama regime got their mitts on the healthcare, banking, energy, student loans, the auto business, and how many other businesses did they take and just create chaos? Now, Obama, this regime, the people behind them, the people beside them, the people around them, they've got their sights set on your 401k. V talked about this. V was the one that talked about this. Steve Quayle talked about this, and people laughed and said, "Oh, this is baloney." Folks, understand this. The progressive movement in this country that's masquerading as progressive, the mouthpieces for the progressive movement, like Chris Matthews and others, and the Rachel Maddows and the formerly Piers Morgans and those people, they've always had their tendencies. Their mouths were watering and were cheerleaders for the Obama administration or Obama regime to take your retirement savings. But so far, at least to now, the attempts have been for naught. One of the very most egregious attempts was the proposal following the 2010 financial crisis was to, and this is quote in quotes, of course, to safeguard your retirement savings by requiring that they be rolled over into T-bonds, Treasury bonds. You remember that, folks? Remember that idea. Now, had that legislation succeeded, it would have appropriated either the entirety of your 401k or part of your 401k to Treasury bonds. The funds would have been used to finance the expansion of the government, the very structure that enslaves you. In return, you would have received what? A promissory note from the federal government, kind of just like what you get, or what has been issued by the Social Security Trust Fund. Folks, please pay attention to this. Many people were not very, well, they weren't too keen on the fact of putting their savings in the Treasury notes or unsecured promissory type notes.
You're chopping out a little bit there.
Okay. No, people aren't too pleased about this. Those who believe that Social Security has done a good job of investing their savings are greatly mistaken. And take a look at the past 2 centuries. The real inflation-adjusted return of the U.S. stock market, what's it been? Anyone want to take a guess? Well, 7%. If you invested, for example, $100,000 in the U.S. market in 1802, your total return after inflation, you want to take a guess? Well, more than $100 billion. By comparison, investment of the into the government T-bills would have yielded approximately $50 million. If you look at that, $100 billion in the U.S. market in 1802 versus T-bills over the last 2 centuries, a huge difference, $100 billion versus $50 million. But this is what they're after right now. This is what the legislation, what the Obama regime, what the state or what the United States senators and congressmen want to do. They want to take over your retirement savings, your 401k. Officials at the Treasury and Labor Departments are continuing their discussions to get into your pockets. Now, this is going to be called an automatic IRA. And, in fact...
the MyRA?
Well, it's the automatic IRA. Now, I think this is kind of a parallel to or an offshoot of my IRA. Jeffrey Folks from the American Thinker has written extensively about this, and in fact, I would direct you to Jeffrey Folks' article at American Thinker. This was issued, or this was written back, maybe a couple of months ago. I'm not sure, but the title is Obama's Plan to Snatch Your Savings. The free market is the target here, and your savings is the target. They don't want the free market to exist as it does today. In fact, the free market will cease to exist.
An article I saw today was that American businesses held overseas cash of amounts of almost $1 trillion, $950 billion cash held overseas. Now, why would you do that? To avoid the overbearing, overregulated, so-called free market we have today. Forget the companies that are in with the government that get these, that pay no taxes. The biggest companies included don't pay any income tax. Yet they are allowed to, through these free trade deals and globalization, move their money, move their companies offshore, continue doing business as they did inside the United States, only doing so from a headquarters located in another country. They're allowed to use the laws of that country for advantage of themselves, whether it be child labor laws, some type of minimum wage, work regulations, things that are necessary for both employees and an employer to, they call it the theft through labor. When they, steal money from people by basically, we'll use the example of sweatshops. And this is what sweatshops did, and this is what, has hurt the economy here in America so much, has been allowing them to move these companies off of U.S. grounds and to pay, slave wages, whatever you call them, sweatshop wages, not pay taxes back home, yet continue to work unhindered as they did as they worked out of America. Yet, what small business or businesses has that type of advantage or ability to do something of that magnitude? Not many. So these are the ones paying the brunt of the taxing bills.
That's correct. But folks, let's be very, very cautious, because we had some people come up to us, and at least I did, and I know Joe and I were separated for a while at the conference, and they were talking about money in their 401ks, and boy, it's going to cost them. You're going to get a hit. You're going to take a hit taking your money out of a 401k, and certainly we're not financial advisors. But one thing that we can say is this. And I defer to V and, for example, and Steve and others, but 50% of $1 million is better than 0% of $1 billion. Okay, it's just
Yeah. Before we go to break here, I just want to reiterate something that Vic, a gentleman we talked with down there, had a meeting with down in Orlando. When he made the comparison of right now, what would you do with your money? When he was asked, what would you do with your money? He said, well, I could have and he used Chevron as an example. He said, I could purchase 100 shares of Chevron, and I'll get a certificate stating I have 100 shares of a company who has billions of dollars of wealth and continues to pull that much wealth out of the ground each day. Or I can have, a stack of $100 bills. Well, with Chevron, they're not continuing to sell stock. At the same time, the stack of $100 bills, you're getting $85 billion in dollars being printed every month, deflating the value of the dollar. And it was a good point he made. I'm not saying trust in the stock market. He was just saying that the paper market, the paper money, a dollar bill is basically a stock certificate, which is gaining value and which isn't. Now, that's not any financial advice. He just made that point, which is something that, I haven't heard been stated that way. by anyone.
And he was talking more about in the investment into or in private industry versus allowing the government to take hold of your or to capture your savings, which I think is an extremely important. Did I just go deaf here? Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. You'll have to forgive us. We're broadcasting from on the road, and some sounds are just a little bit off. But folks understand this. It's the goal of the United States government right now, the Obama regime, the progressives, the globalists, to cause chaos, to destroy our economy.
Originally created and uploaded to YouTube by the Hagmann and Hagmann channel. To view the full show archives, please visit youtube.com/user/Hagmann and Hagmann.
Hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this Monday, March 31st, 2014. This is the last day of March. Heading into April tomorrow, and this month sure did go by fast, as they have all been rolling by very fast as of late. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Dan. You wanted to open with something?
Well, a couple of things, folks, and I want to apologize again if our audio quality sounds a little bit off. It's because we are on location from the Atlantic shore of Florida, heading up to North Carolina tomorrow, and of course we'll be broadcasting from North Carolina tomorrow with Stan Deyo. I want to make sure everyone knows that the broadcast will be live. Want to as well say thank you very much to Kay for your very kind email, a listener via Coast to Coast AM. I would direct others as well, ladies and gentlemen. One of the important things that the investigative work that we are doing is accelerating and becoming more aggressive. In tandem, folks, please understand this, in tandem with, parallel to, overlapping with the Arpaio Cold Case Posse investigation into what will be groundbreaking, earth-shaking, universe-rattling information from the Arpaio Cold Case Posse. We're not in competition with them in any way, shape, or form. Certainly we support them 100% and have provided information and will continue to do so. I want to reinforce that. I also got an email here. I'm not going to give out the name of this person, but I do want to say this. When I spoke about this last week, the broadcast that was published on another website, a birther website, as one might call it, and in fact I believe it's self-named that, is talk about the Subud cult. Folks, a couple of things. Right now I'm scheduled to be on with John B. Wells sometime this week. That was supposedly, I think, on Wednesday, which has to be removed because of our travels. But at some point this week, I believe that I'll be on with John B. Wells. But the reason I mention this is, please find episode number 31 from John B. Wells, Caravan to Midnight. Now, if you think that we have broadcast problems, that we're being attacked, and we are electronically, and then there's a lot of information that people do not want to get out. John Wells is fighting off attacks and from multiple directions, and I'm sure those in tune with that can understand this. But please, let me reinforce something here. We've been working on for the last. It's been quite a while. It's been, by my accounts, pretty close to a year. We have been investigating something called the Subud cult, like I had mentioned. This has taken us to talk with people in the state of Florida and elsewhere who have direct and indirect information about the Subud cult being part of, being an influence in certain events, not the least of which resulted in the death of Loretta Fuddy. Now, folks, first of all, and I will reiterate this, please look for on the internet episode number 31, John B. Wells, Caravan to Midnight. You'll find it, even though Caravan to Midnight is a subscription-based service, because of the technical aspects, technical problems they've encountered. There are programs available without cost. Please listen to episode 31. And we had, just so you know, a guest on that program. Episode 31 was an internet, or is an internet researcher by the name of Butter D. Zillion. Now, she's got a blog. If you go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, it's hard linked, or it's linked off of our middle section there to her blog. She's an exceptional researcher, an absolutely exceptional researcher. She got into the Fuddy death, in particular the video footage of the Fuddy death. If you look at the video of the death of Loretta Fuddy, taken from a passenger of the plane that went down, that was suddenly revealed, its existence was revealed 30 days after the crash, or this hard water landing. Now, let me just say this. If you were a passenger in a small, 10, 11 passenger aircraft, and it made this emergency landing where one person reportedly died from it in Hawaii, and it made national news. Think about this for a moment. And you had videotape of that from start to finish as a passenger of that aircraft. Let me ask you a question. Would you wait 30 days before acknowledging the fact that you had that video? Does it make sense? Another thing, too.
Not at all.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious. Another thing, too. When you present that video to the major networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, the Today Show, the various news programs, when you can look at a video file that is uploaded to the internet, and then shown to the general public in these venues, and then you see where the video on the news,
kind of like what's going on now. You're getting cut off. What you just said like 5 minutes ago was still coming through, and it was choppy as it was coming through.
Okay, and folks, I've got to tell you this. As we sit here right now, we are being toyed with by those people out there who don't want the truth to get out. If you look on the internet, and if you search Subud, S-U-B-U-D, and you search my name with that, you will find on a quote, birther site, the 14 minutes, I believe, me talking about it. The audio was horrible, absolutely horrible. I couldn't believe it. But having said that, look at some of the comments there. And you will see the very same people. If you do the tracing, you'll understand how bad these people don't want this truth to get out. okay? But let me just say this, for the purpose who sent me this email. Those people who don't want this information to get out, folks, let me give you a message. It is too late, because I have provided this information. Others have this information. You can have your way with me. The word will still get out. Trust me when I tell you that. I'm not going to lose a bit of sleep tonight, tomorrow night, or whatever over this, because I can tell you, and you can quiet or silence this show, but the truth will come out. It is that dire. It is that important, folks. This is so incredible. I just want you to know that this is an extremely important connection. When you look at Loretta Fuddy, when you look at the fact that she was brought in from Seattle to Hawaii to be director, Hawaii Health Department director, for the time to safeguard Obama's certificate of live birth, that would expose him for who and what he really is. And then as he did her job, the certificate of live birth, the forgery was released, and then once it was proven to be a forgery, of course, and she was named in an indictment, or an affidavit, I should say, by Douglas Vogt, who we interviewed for 3 hours, and then she lost her life, the sole fatality in an airplane crash due to a cardiac arrhythmia. The bottom line here, folks, is the fact that Obama is, based on everything that I have come up with, is a compilation, a CIA compilation. You've got to look at the Western intelligence agencies. When I say CIA, I also mean the British intelligence and other intelligence agencies, including Mossad, yes, including Mossad, but the fact of the matter is this. Obama was selected and placed in power for this very time in history. And when you take that, you factor in this cult, which is a vehicle that was used to put him and others in positions of power, including but not limited to Loretta Fuddy. And then you take a few steps back and you look what's taking place with respect to the economy here in this country. And oh yes, the Republicans, the conservatives in name only, greased the skids for Obama to be in power. But look at what happens. Look at what's happening right now. Oh, and also the Russian controlling the Ukraine and Crimea, or at least the mischief that's taking place there. The Russian controlling the Syrian oil, the emergence of World War III, the corporate takeover or the corporate presence, for example. You can go back, look at what's taking place in Syria, and go back even into the late 1800s, if you will. John D. Rockefeller, Standard Oil Company in 1870, ExxonMobil, and all of the profits from selling Russian-controlled Syrian oil. And now what are we doing? And how this all connects to Benghazi, and how Benghazi connects to Hillary, and how Hillary, of course, is part of Bill Clinton, married to Bill Clinton, marriage of convenience, and Clinton being a part of the royalty, shall we say. All of this connects. And I believe, and I don't know this for a fact, but I believe, folks, the announcement that will be made from the Cold Case Posse will include this and much more, because it's much deeper. And people say, well, why, or they're asking, why is Sheriff Arpaio? Why is the cold case posse waiting for things? Some people will say, well, the reason they're not talking is because they're just bluffing. They don't have anything to say. It's all just smoke and mirrors. Let me just tell you this. There's nothing smoke and mirrors about Joseph or about Mike Zullo or Sheriff Arpaio or their investigation. Nothing at all. And it will come out. There are things that have to take place first. And the things are being done first. It's a very methodical operation, but please understand when I tell you this, that what we are looking at is the exposure of an agenda to take down the United States that will be an indictment of the people currently in power. It is that big. I'm not trying to overstate the case. I'm not trying to do that whatsoever. I just want you to know how important this is. Did I say anything? People may and will, I can guarantee you, say, well, he's talked for 10 minutes and hasn't said a word. Well, if you listen carefully, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be cryptic. I'm just trying to tell you, come at this at a very precise, in a very precise manner, and tell you that there's a lot of substance here. There is a lot of graft. There's a lot of collusion, of complicity. There's a lot of extremely critical issues that are taking place that go far beyond the imagination of the average person in this country or the belief of the average person in this country. It is that important. And yes, we're talking about the domestic ruin, or the ruin domestically of the United States in a deliberate fashion, by the Obama regime. But don't think it's him, only him, because it's not. This is a move by the globalists, and the globalists have no allegiance to political party. The globalists have allegiance to the one world order crowd. I just want to say that, reinforce that, and just say it's that big. Somebody asked me what was on my mind the other day, why I looked so pensive. This is to me, this is for all of the marbles. And putting the pressure on and keeping the pressure on is so important, because we're looking at, right now in my view, the last gasp of freedom for us all in this country. Folks, I walked across the street
Did you just cut yourself off? Okay.
I walked across the street to grab a cup of coffee to clean the store to preparation for the show. And I was thinking, being so close to the Atlantic Ocean and seeing the traffic and seeing the people, I could almost visualize tanks in the streets. I can almost visualize MRAPs and armed troops in the streets. This is where we're headed, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not saying this lightly, and I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this to prepare you.
So you're not saying that the military will be selling their vehicles and to civilians. You're saying they're going to be, there's going to be a time when they are going to need them for what they're saying and have been saying about unrest, about martial law. Just to be clear.
Yeah, just to be clear.
Okay. I had to check because I don't know. Like I said, that sunburn, I think burnt more than your skin, but just checking.
Oh, it's a good thing. It's a good thing the Nerf bat's back in the office, but
and I'm out of arm's length. That's correct.
That's right. Oh no, yeah, no, and we kid, we joke about this because sometimes it's all you can do. But I certainly believe, folks, that if you do search out that video, please do that, or the audio on YouTube, the episode number 31. Please listen to that very, very carefully. Go back and listen to Butter the Zillion from our previous broadcast. Also, do me one more favor. If you really want to understand how bad things are, and if you want to feel better about your own personal situation in your family, and I know this is kind of out there, you'll find where Butter D. Zillion has posted her investigative research findings before her blog, or in addition to her blog. And I don't like, in her case, I don't like the word blog. I'll just say website. Take a very close look at the attacks that she has received. Take a very close look at how the discussions have been directed, redirected, misdirected, and take a good close look at the techniques being used to discredit her. Why her? You might be asking. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Why her? Because there are people out there who are finding the truth, sometimes as we do, stumble over it despite it being in front of us. Okay? Think about that. We're looking for something and we trip over it and we say, hey, we found it. Well, yeah, we found it all right. Purely by accident, but nonetheless we did find it. But the fact of the matter is that the infiltration right now by our government, the infiltration by the people, the non-governmental organizations, the NGOs, the people who are being paid by the George Soroses of the world, for example, and others, for example, they are now working overtime to destroy not only the message, but the messengers. And at the point in the future, and I'm going to shut up after this, Joe, and turn it over to you. At the point in the future, I don't know when, there will be a silencing of the truth. When truth will no longer be able to be spoken on these airwaves. And I'm not saying this is the scary one. I'm just saying at some point in time, the truth has got to be stopped. And the last thing I'll say, and this is because we had this discussion, Joe, you and I had with the people at the conference, certain people behind closed doors. If we are speaking the truth, why are we still alive? You and me. If, for example, Alex Jones is speaking the truth, why is he still alive? Why not go the way of, let's say, Breitbart, or why not go the way of Mr. Hastings, or why not go the way of insert name here? I don't have the answer to that question, except to say that I like to believe that there's a veil of protection over us, and I'd like to also think that we a little bit have done some things that are pretty intelligent. We're working with people in other countries safeguarding information. Hopefully that's the case. Hopefully the information is in fact as critical as it appears to be. So we're not wasting our time, and certainly not wasting your time. Just something I was thinking about.
Yeah, and one of the other things we talked about is how the news is completely, either the news is really going crazy, or they really think people are getting that much dumber by the day. And as I'm looking here, we have the story on the Malaysia Flight 370. There's been obviously some updates in that story since we have taken a short break, but not that I want to talk about this for any length of time. But just when you get each network, you have these big news networks, these conglomerates that control the content of information that is given out to the public, and it's disseminated down nationally to local, state and local channels, the talking lines. These stories that are coming out from this plane, just from on their way down here, we found it. Well, we think we found it, but we have no proof we found it. The stories that they put out about the pilot, how the son has come out, and a longtime friend has come out and spoke against the way they're portraying the pilot to be. And you're getting the same alternative reports from the same news agency. Fox News, for example, or MSNBC, running stories that they found the debris, and then running stories that debris is not found, creating so much confusion in the news that even the only way you'd be able to tell the truth of what really happened is if you were there or knew somebody directly involved in it. When you see that happening, that's definitely an indicator to look somewhere else, because planes don't go missing. And if they do, they usually show up within a matter of hours, especially in today's world. And a gentleman was telling a story about family members of his fishing, and to make a long story short, however this was made possible, don't know, but when you go fishing, you have limits. You have how long the fish can be, how many you can catch. Well, apparently these people were fishing and caught 2 more than their limit was for the day, and there were Border Patrol people waiting for them, or Game Commission waiting for them when they docked on shore, knowing that they had caught fish over the regulation for the day. Now, you think if they can do that, which this was the story that was told to us by somebody we talked to this weekend, they're not going to lose an airplane. Now, there were many theories thrown out there about where this airplane is, and we've heard about the personnel that were on this airplane, and the amount of technology being defense contractors that these people held. But when I see a story like this, when it's just too unreal, too unbelievable, you need to step back and pay attention to the other things, because they're obviously trying to pull a majority of the people into some circus they created, like the sleight of a hand, the magician trick. Look over here at the shiny object, while with the other hand they're doing things that we're not seeing, and we need to be looking at that other hand, not what they're showing us to look at.
Precisely, Joe. And this is something my wife and I were talking about earlier today, and it's just amazing to all of us. We know that with respect to that flight, there's something really wrong. You have all of the major networks right now that are covering this. It's almost, I'm not going to say wall-to-wall coverage, but it's certainly saturated. We've reached a level of saturation that's beyond belief. The question is why? And now there are some people, there are 6 major corporations that cover all of the networks across the world, essentially, but specifically here in the West. And they're all saying the same things. Now, as you just pointed out, when they're all saying the same things, you've got to question what's going on here. But planes just don't. I mean, and I've seen comparisons made with this Malaysian flight to the loss of Amelia Earhart. I mean, are you really being serious, folks? When you go to those links to compare the missing aircraft of Amelia Earhart for crying out loud to a full size to a Boeing 777 in 2014 versus nearly a century ago, come on. No, there's something wrong here. And of course, that whole situation is a sideshow destined to take your eyes off of, or either take your eyes off of what's really important, or equally important, shall I say, the fact that this will show up in a manner that could very well be the start of something totally out of left field. And think about that statement for a moment. Just think about that. We're going to be taking your calls here, folks, as we just time is flying by. I received an email here, and I just want may I say this? I want to impose upon everyone here. I received an email from Michael Bennett with respect to the Whitestone Remnant Conference. And, of course, those of us who are going to be in Bozeman, Michael Bennett writes, wow, we're now inside of 60 days from the start of the Whitestone Remnant Conference. Excitement is building, of course, with the prospects of having speakers that they've scheduled. Now, in case, folks, you're not familiar with the speakers who are going to be speaking, Steve Quayle, Russ Dizdar, Greg Evenson, pastors David Langford and John Kyle. They are extremely excited about what the Holy Spirit is laying on their hearts. Now, here's a couple of things, according to Mr. Bennett, you need to know, folks. And I think this is so important. I've talked to a number of people who are very excited, who are at the Prophecy Conference in Orlando, who are attending the Bozeman Conference. A couple of things you need to know. As we're less than 60 days to go, please make sure that you get your airline, your hotel, and car rental accommodations made ASAP, as soon as possible. There are still a few rooms left at the Holiday Inn, but soon they're going to be sold out. And you know what, folks? We've got to do that. Okay, so we're in the same boat you guys are. Now, there are a couple of hotels within walking distance of the Holiday Inn Conference Center. There's the Grand Tree Inn, the Comfort Inn, and others listed on the location tab of the website. By the way, folks, the website is accessible off of HomelandSecurityUS.com. It's the Whitestone, it's WhitestoneRemnant.com. Just go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, click on that Whitestone Conference thing, and go to the different tabs, the location tab, and you'll see all this. There will be no tickets mailed to you. The tickets are going to be handled in a will call manner at the conference. So in other words, they're not going to get lost in the mail. You just pick them up at the conference venue. There's going to be a registration desk that will be open at 3 o'clock Mountain Time at the Holiday Inn Conference Center, where you can pick up your registration material. I guess what I'm saying here is, please make your arrangements as soon as possible. Folks, I know you're thinking, God, another conference? I mean, really? But look, the talent, not even the talent, the spirit behind the men who are going to be speaking, this is going to just be something that will rock your world, my world, our world, collectively. But here's something really cool, and this is something that, this is the first I heard about this, and this is the first maybe you folks will hear about this. They're doing something different here. They're providing areas within the conference room for you to meet others of like mind and like faith from your geographic region, from your area. They've got attendees from right now, as we speak, right this moment, on the 31st of March, 2014, they've got attendees from 31 different U.S. states and 4 Canadian provinces. So what you can do is network among the people in your area. This is a big deal to me, because this is what's coming. We're not going to get through this alone, so we need others of like mind. If for no other reason, that is worth the price of admission and really the cost of getting to the conference. Plus, seeing Steve Quayle up there after being not working for 20 or not doing conferences for over two decades is that'll be exciting, folks. It'll be exciting. So I just wanted to get that out. I just heard from Michael Bennett, the gentleman that's taking care of this conference today, and there you have it. So, and by the way, it is time to really pray about this and fast about this, and please pray for the Holy Spirit to place a word in the hearts of speakers and pray for the Holy Spirit to move upon the conference attendees. And I think that's very important. But looking very, very forward to that. Hopefully we can get back to unpack the pack to go to this conference. What do you think?
Hopefully this has been a long trip, and it's been nice. At the same time, after being out on the road for a long time, you always want to get home. And it is difficult, doing shows from the road. But one thing, hopefully we'll be able to meet up with Pastor Langford. That will be fantastic to be able to see him on the way back. And once we get back and settle, we'll have Nathan Leal on with us Thursday night. And we'll be working on a schedule with people from the conference. We will be scheduling them and putting together a great lineup of new guests that you have not heard on our show, as well as guests that you may have heard on our show, presenting information that they did during their time here in Orlando. And it's going to be great. Couple weeks, couple months, however long. Some speakers, like L.A. Marzulli, was going to be busy up until around June. So we couldn't make, it wasn't easy enough we couldn't schedule a show in the next month or two. We were going to have to wait. But there are others, people who we haven't heard from here on the Hagman and Hagman Report that will be joining us, that we just have to contact and schedule and put that together. And we will be working on that for the following weeks, the weeks following the conference. We're going to have as many people on, just like we did before we left. We try to get as many people that were going to be at the conference on before we left. We're going to do the same, only this time with people we met who haven't been on. We're going to try and get those guys on first, and along with the other gentlemen who've been on our show previously.
Exactly. And just for those who sent me emails and chat requests, yes, we did provide Doc Marquis with coffee during that last conference. So Doc Marquis was a very, very nice guy, very, very pleasant.
We had some fun. He had some fun.
Yeah.
He's
a character. He really is, and others, of course, and Paul McGuire, spending some time with him, both publicly and privately. And I'm going to put some pictures up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if you mentioned the pictures. I was going through the computer crap at the first 10 minutes of the show, but we got pictures with a lot of the guest speakers there.
The trouble I'm having, though, is the blue dot over my face, if you know what I mean, folks. And that, by the way, I want to thank you very much for your email. I mentioned the Malaysian missing aircraft. Of course, they know exactly where this Malaysian jet is. Personally, I don't believe that. I believe what we're seeing is a sideshow, and of course, I do believe that they do know, in fact, exactly where this jet is. That's just my personal opinion. But it seems to be those of a lot. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I just want to tell you this. You talked about calls. We do have a lot of callers lined up right now.
Let's rock. Let's rock and roll. Do you have access to the controls? Okay.
Yep. Yes, I do.
All right.
And we're going to area codes, or you can call the show at 661-244-9839. That's 661-244-9839. And then press 1 to let us know that you want to come on, and we'll get to your call. We'll get through as many of these as possible. And we'll be taking calls now until the end of the show. Any questions, comments, concerns, opinions, complaints, we take them all. We're going to start with area code 707. 707, you're live on the Hagman and Hagman Report. What's on your mind tonight? Hello? And Dad, I can't hear you. There we go. A little better. Are you there?
You're sounding like you're calling from a submarine, or at least you did. We're going to put you back on hold. We're going to move on to a different call. Hopefully we can get that connection straightened around. I think that's on that person's end, not our end.
Well, we'll try 315. 315 next. You're live on the Hagman and Hagman Report.
Finally. Hi, my name is Laura Baker. How are you?
Hi, Laura.
All right. I am a TI, which is a targeted individual. The NSA has been attacking me and my family for 7 years. and I've been getting this information out way before Snowden, but I've been suppressed and oppressed. I want your viewers to know that if they start hearing voices, they start feeling like their body's being filled with energy, noises and stuff in their house, everything's coming through the utility poles. The NSA is not the only one with the FBI. Your cable companies, your ISPs, your electrical companies, your water board authorities, they're all tied in together. And I tried to send you guys emails. My emails are, I'm one of those type of people where my emails don't get to the recipients and the recipients don't get to me. I've had 2 top secret clearances. I've worked for the government. I've worked as a contractor, GE, built the radar systems, worked on U2, E2C. My last job, I worked up here at Griffith Base, and I really wanted to get a hold of you guys. I need your help because they are seriously attacking our house, the electricity, the EMFs. And if you can take my phone number and give me a call, I'd really appreciate it. I am a very strong servant of the Lord, and I have survived, you not believe.
Okay, now hold on a second, Joe. You've got her phone number, right? Do not give your phone number out over the air. Okay.
Yeah, we have.
We've got your phone number
and your name,
and we will contact you off air.
Yeah, because they take control of my phone calls. I was trying for 45 minutes to listen to your live broadcast, and I got an overlay film over the website, and they put screen paper, the wallpaper up there, so that I can't get to your show. They prevent me from. I've been trying to get a hold of Steve Quayle. I call him, and they say, oh, he can't talk to me. I says, I was getting tears. I said, but Steve Quayle, no way. A brother in the Lord would never refuse to talk to a sister in the Lord. So they interrupt my phone calls. I've been trying to get a hold of lawyers, and it's just been horrible. And I just really, really been trying to get you guys to help me. So if you can call, like you said, off the air and talk to me, I've got a lot of information I can give to you. It'll help you, and that's why you get your interception through your every time I try to get a hold of people at certain websites or something, everything goes wrong with their websites or something happens with their radio broadcasts and everything. They're so tied into me, it's ridiculous. I'm like they're one of their black op projects. And there's a website, too, for your readers. If anybody has problems, it's called Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance. They've been around for a long time. These people have been going through the judicial system. We've gone through Congress. I even told the Congress before they reported that they were being spied on. I was telling them that they were being spied on by the NSA. Everything is secondhand information, and they are torturing people in their own homes. They're right through the cable, and through like you said, the smart meters, but the directed, targeted, and you can get a lot of information. It's Derek Robinson from Freedom from Covert, and it's going to happen to everybody. I heard the tones coming right through the city being broadcasted right over our city. The tones were just, because I used to deliver the papers. They manipulate my life. They manipulate my son's life. And they're just so involved in everything. And I thank God. I see the Lord got me as your second caller. The Lord intervened. Finally got a hold of you. So I'm not going to let your other talkers get in on the line. And you guys, please call me. Please,
Laura,
if you can't.
Yes. Listen to me carefully, okay? And please, we will get in contact with you. It's going to take us a few days, okay? Understand that. It's going to take us probably until Friday before we can contact you in the manner in which we must. If you've got the background that you say you have, you understand what I'm talking about. Right?
I most certainly do.
Okay, so give us until Friday-ish.
Thank you. Praise God. Yeah. Praise the Lord Jesus Christ. And send my love to Pastor Langford. He's got it right about the 3.5 years. And tell Steve Quayle I love him. I listen to you guys all the time, anytime I get. And thank you, and praise God. you have the protection of the Holy Spirit on you, and that's why you're not dead yet, by the way. He's got it. He's with his people. The reason why those satellites are still up there and the reason why communications are still going is because the people are still doing the work of the Lord, and they are succeeding and winning over the people. You're going to wake up America, but it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late. We've been trying to do this for years. I've been trying to tell people for years and years and years, warning people. I know the scriptures. You would not believe the prophecies. They killed my father a couple of years ago. I'm telling you, these people, they're not going to stop, and it's all fulfillment of the prophecy, and we're a lot closer than people realize. The Lord is with us, and he is strong. He sees, and he knows everything. And Mr. Hagmann, I'm telling you, when I heard you confront them over the radio, saying how no matter what they do, they can stop your show, but the truth will somehow come out. I'm sitting here, I'm laughing, I'm smiling to myself. I said, because they have microphones all in my house. They hear and they know everything I do in here. I mean, it's so bad. But I told them, I said, they can stop me. They can try and shut me up all they want, but in the Lord, he will rise up other people. And I knew, I said, what they're doing to us, the TIs, the torture in the house, in their homes and everything, I said, it's going to come out. It's going to come out. I don't care. And I tried to tell them, I said, you could talk to Jason in Congressman Hannah's office because he's got a copy of everything, of my stuff, everything. And I said, it's going to come out through the tech field. I said, the Lord's going to move somebody in the tech field to get this out. Now, whether Snowden, why they're suppressing and not getting it all out, they're methodically going through this and letting it leak out little by little. I question his integrity on that, because people are suffering and people are dying, and he's got valuable information. The people of America, if they knew that the reason why they have cancer, the reason why they get sick and they get colds is because of the ear tones and the EMS and everything that they're sending in their house. That's why they're getting sick and that's why they're getting cancer, because they're doing it through their very own homes.
Okay, well, Laura, we will contact you off air. God bless you. Thank you. We're going to cut you loose right now. All right.
I was your show.
Thank you so much for listening, being a listener. And folks, I just want to say this. We did have a meeting at the conference, and if you think that this might be over the top, you're thinking, oh, well, this is stuff of science fiction. When we entered the room, and Joe, you can attest to this, and we're not going to tell you who this was with, but we had to go to a specific meeting one day during the conference, and this was at I'll just say a remote location, but when we walked into this particular venue, we had to take our cell phones and make sure they were completely
any electronic.
What do you say? Non-functional, completely non-functional. To the point where you just can't believe it. And every piece of electronic that was
put
in the
special
room.
Place.
Yeah, and this is by somebody. If we would tell you the name of this particular person, you would say, "Wait a minute, it sounds like somebody Looney Tunes." No. So understand, there is this electronic monitoring capability. Not only electronic monitoring, but based on, and even I was surprised at the level of this. What do you call it, Joe? This level of aggressive behavior toward this electronic stuff. We're talking about any phones that were there in this venue being completely removed, and even to the point of it.
Yeah, just imagine if you really were to go around your house and worry about things that could transmit. Just imagine every single thing that you would worry about being taken apart and more so being put away in a.
And that was before the meeting. So when I saw that immediately got my attention from someone who's been in the electronic surveillance business. And I said, "Wow, are you really basically?" And I didn't mean to sound offensive, but are you paranoid, or really is this stuff happening? And like I got was, no, this stuff is really happening. Sometimes it's a wake-up call. So you might think that the caller, like Laura, might be, well, hey, over the top. Really? Think again, folks, because there is this level of surveillance.
All right, what do you want to do? You want to try and take one more call, or do you want to go to an early break? We got 3 minutes till the top of the hour.
No, let's give somebody a chance. Come on, let's bring somebody back on, or bring somebody on.
806 area code. We're coming to you next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagin Report. What's on your mind tonight?
How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Tired? That's great.
Well, I was just wanting to kind of comment. I very much agree that there is that level of surveillance. And in my time of watching all of this stuff develop, over years I've seen it, what they tell you, they come out and reveal to you, okay, here's how we're spying on you. Well, you can bet that what they're telling you is 30 years old. They've got the ability to do what they want, when they want, to who they want. Period.
Exactly right.
I've read a lot of stuff. I'm not going to name names about authors of books or commentators on the radio of past, but I've listened to an awful lot of stuff. And back maybe 25 years ago, maybe the late 80s, I had read a book. I've read many. Well, I read one. It was Billy Graham's. It was a Billy Graham book at the time. And I'm not saying I'm a Billy Graham follower, but he wrote a book called I think the Apocalypse of the Four Horsemen. It was a good book, and that one turned me on to other books like The Seduction of Christianity, which I believe was by a fellow. It was I can't remember the guy who wrote that, but it talked about how the church would be seduced and into believing, an apostasy instead of looking at the truth and seeing how our nation is being overtaken. And the church is silent. They're eerily silent. It's scary. It's like they need to. The very people who need to stand up and say enough of this are sickeningly silent. And it comes down to the people like us, like you on the radio, and people like me who just talk to people, on an everyday basis, about things, and maybe you can impart some things here and there, but it's coming down to this, and that's where we are. It is a fight for the ages, and there's only a few willing to engage in the fight, and you're going to lose something in doing this. It's not going to be pretty. They're going to come after us. There's no question about it. So the bottom line is, what side of this whole thing do you want to stand on? And what side of eternity do you want to be on? And that's really what it comes down to. And, either people understand that or they don't. And I assume you got that right. I assume you guys feel the same way. But where I live, and there are people around who, there's Second Amendment enthusiasts. They go out and shoot at the range. Wow, we got our guns. But the very same people that have these guns are going under Agenda 21 and not doing a thing about it. They just go along. It's like, okay, you want to play like you've got your guns, you've got to control the things. No, you don't. Half the people are living under housing associations and stuff that tell you what to do at your house. If you can't
Caller, go out and talk. You go out and you mention Agenda 21 or Common Core or smart meters to the average person walking on the street, and they're going to look at you like they've got no clue, and they don't, of what you're talking about. The average person.
They don't. They half the time, and it's gotten to the point where, to be honest, guys, I'm just sometimes like, to hell with it. I'll go to Belize or something. I'll try something different, because the people that live in the United States are so I don't know if it's dumbed down, because there are still a few smart people. I mean, there couldn't be stupid doctors. Well, we could debate that one. But there's got to be a reason why people are so apathetic and so could care less. And I would like to know it, but I just don't know that I want to stay in a country like that, because that scares me almost more than anything. They'll burn us at the stake in a heartbeat, my friend.
Judgment will befall us in the house of God, obviously, much harder, much more harsh than elsewhere. But, my friend, you're not going to outrun, you're not going to hide from what's coming. Belize or Libya or, wherever.
One thing I'd like to add is that lady that was talking earlier, I hear pops and stuff in my house lately, and I'm not crazy. I hear it, and I actually have, another person that I confirmed it through. I'm like, do you hear that? That's not just me, is it? And and I don't know if that is what she's talking about, but that's sort of eerie that she brought it up, and that's, I'm not trying to sensationalize it or anything, but there are things that go on that you think, okay. Now, I've heard about this technology a long time ago, and now it's like, here we are in 2014, guys. It's not 1950 or 85. I mean, we're well advanced into, where this was all headed, and now it's just here, and people don't realize it. They're asleep.
Right on, my friend. Absolutely.
But anyway, I won't go on and on about it. But you guys are doing a really good job. You ask why are you still here on the radio? Because they know that if they do something to you, there's going to be people like me that'll get on the radio that will have your back. You may not be here anymore, but I'll get on the radio then, and I'll have your back, and I'll say, this is what those guys used to say, and I believe it because I saw it over my lifetime. And what are you going to do? You're going to get all of us? Come on! Are you going to burn us all down? They know they can't do that. So that leads me to the last point, that they must have one heck of an agenda coming to make everybody follow it and to shackle the mob and make them do what they want. And that's all I can think of.
Amen, brother. I totally believe that. I believe that. Well, God bless you, my friend. Thank you so much for your call. We're up against the top of the hour. A lot of great points. And I'm glad you got our back, because one day.
Daytona, Florida. It is the Hagmann and Hagin Report in our third and final hour this evening. We're going to be finishing up the rest of the show with your phone calls. But first, tomorrow, I want to let you guys know we will be joined by Stan Dale. And we will be talking about the earthquakes that have been happening in Los Angeles and in other areas across the country that seem to be problematic or that seem to have some... we saw the aftershocks in both the Yellowstone and the hundreds and hundreds of aftershocks in L.A. Many scientists warning, is this a precursor to something bigger, setting off a earthquake alarm, as I saw the headline on Saturday. But tomorrow, Stan Dale. And on Thursday night, we'll be joined by Nathan Liao of Watchman'sCry.com. You're not going to want to miss that episode either, as Nathan always brings a great insight and information into what he's working on. And I'm not going to talk about what he's working on. We'll just let him come on and get into it on Thursday. But two shows you're not going to want to miss, that's for sure, this week. Getting back to the phones, we're going to go to area code 281. 281, you're up next. You're live on the Hagman and Hagin Report.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Doug. This is Sharon from Texas.
Hi, Sharon.
Sure,
Hi,
Texas.
Uh-huh.
Just reiterating that. Sorry about that.
Doug, you mentioned about the vehicles on the street, and
yes.
That's why I called, because I live in North Houston, and there was a vehicle the other day that caught my attention, and I got some pictures of it. I wanted to send them to you, and I wanted you to have a heads up to watch for that, because you probably get a whole lot of emails. So what this was a large yellow Hummer 2, whatever, H2. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
We can hear you.
And it said Department of Safety. Now, in Texas, we have the Texas Department of Public Safety. You know, that's standard. So Department of Safety was what probably caught my eye the most. Well, it also has on it Special Ops, SWAT, got an emblem with PSI and some different things. It may even say enforcement when I zoom in. I think that's a possibility. Something about medical and rescue. It's got a big funny bumper, big mirrors, big lights. And I didn't remember seeing this, but the picture clearly shows the word rations. It could be any word. I just caught the end of it. The rations, RATIONS, on the back. It's just quite a vehicle, and I just thought, you know, I want you to look at it. I'm from Texas. I know all about the oil and gas business here. I've worked oil and gas under the Safety Department superintendent for 5 years. It didn't strike me as that kind of vehicle. So,
okay.
Who knows? But if it was privately owned, I'd think they'd take some credit for anything that, you know, unusual. And I just think, you know, a company would put their name on it because they'd be so proud of that ride. So I'm going to send those pictures to you tomorrow. Do I just need to email on your website?
Yes, please. Use the one right off of the website. Wow, we're getting some bad echo there. We apologize, but use the email right on the left-hand side of the website.
Okay, and those will come to you tomorrow.
Very good. And
thank you.
Now, in front of everyone here, do we have your permission to post those on our website if we take the metadata, meaning the information off of the photograph?
Sure.
Okay,
and
good. All right.
License plate. If you zoom in, that caught my eye. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't. I don't know. If you look at it, you're going to have an eye for it better than me. But if you zoom in, which I just did tonight, you can see that there's small red writing on the windows and on the door handles, which is not just. They almost look. I don't think fortified might be the word, but they look like they're bolted down. It's quite a ride. I really want you to take a look at it. It may look different to someone else, but definitely interesting.
Will do. We really appreciate you letting us have sending us the photographs, and certainly we will take a look at them, analyze them, and of course put them up for other people's viewing information. We really appreciate that. Let's say God bless you. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
That's important. All right. God bless.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along here. Let's go to area code 416. 416, thanks for holding. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, hello, guys. How are you?
Doing
Tremendous.
Great.
Okay, well, I have to admit, I was down at the Property Conference with you, and Doug Hagmann does buy people coffees because he bought me one, too. And I have to say, you're awful dapper in your suits, boys. You look awful good.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm Captain Tank, so I guess you know who I am.
Anyways, of course.
Of course. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about was when I got back, I'm sitting today getting tires because I'm a Canadian and I'm getting back to Canada, and you buy your tires in the States, of course, because they're a little bit cheaper. And I'm talking to everyone around me is a senior citizen. And I remember hearing, I'm not sure if it was your show, but it probably somebody told me that and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I need to be corrected if I am wrong. If you're getting Medicare and you're a senior in the States, that at the end of your life, they are going to come and take whatever you were billed, whatever the cost of your care that you were given, and they're going to try and get it out of your estate.
We just went through this. Yes, yeah. We just went through this. This is coming, folks. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Personally.
Because I mentioned this to a few of the seniors that were sitting there, because it seemed to be senior day at the tire store, and they were just like shocked. They could not believe this. They've never heard. They're saying, "Well, we're watching mainstream media. We're not hearing any of this. Where'd you find this out?" And I told them, "You got to start looking at alternate media, because this is the only place you're going to find the truth. Because you're being lied to." Now, I don't know if you guys caught the last speech at the Prophecy Conference before everything, it wrapped up and went. But there was a guy called Derek Gilbert, and he did this a very good presentation on Google and also on the NSA, and how what's going on in the competition Google is having with Facebook, and how they are trying to get to the singularity, which is aware computers that can think for themselves and become aware, like situationally aware. And the two companies and the amount of companies that they're buying. But then he also went down and broke down, like, how did Facebook come into being? And who were the backers that bought into Facebook? And where were these people coming from that put in many millions of dollars before Facebook was ever put out onto the stock was ever floated, for example.
Right.
Okay? And when you start taking a look at this, like, it's basically an intelligence gathering service. Well, then he went into and talked about what was going on with, for example, the NSA, and how much power they're going to get. They're going to be able to gather an exabyte. And he asked anybody, do you understand what an exabyte is? And it just so happens I kind of understand what an exabyte is. It's a huge amount of data. So more data. There's no computers around right now that we know in the business world, that can handle that kind of data. Okay, because it's just so huge. In the military, maybe, right? But in the normal business world and banks and everything else, which you have huge data centers, no, they don't have that kind of power. But they're talking the NSA headquarters out in Utah of being able to have that kind of power, which is absolutely unbelievable when you think of it. So they're saying that they're going to be able to grab 90% of everything that goes on the cell phones, over the internet, okay, faxes, emails, Facebook, Twitter, the whole gamut, worldwide. They're going to be able to grab 90% of it. And that they're working with countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It's actually the New Zealanders and the Australians that let it out of the bag. The Brits, and a bunch of other countries. So if they may not be able to gather the information in the United States, they're able to gather it from these other countries. Okay? And that's how they're tapping in. And they're able to get everything. So, the woman that was on before, and, some people may say, well, no. That woman is probably telling the truth. Okay? And especially with the smart meter issues, because I've got internet in my house, and I couldn't get proper Wi-Fi running in my house. The guys just came in and plugged into my regular electrical lines, and they just ran an extra couple of these Wi-Fi connections in my house. So I got good Wi-Fi all over my house, which I really didn't like. I'd prefer to be hardwired, but this is the reality we live in, right?
Exactly.
So that's what I wanted to phone and talk about, and that's pretty much it. You guys are great. You're doing a good job. I got to admit, I do love your tie stuff. They're just so snappy.
Well, thanks.
It was nice to see, and and well, I'll tell you, don't hit your son too many times with that Nerf bat, because I think he can take you. After me,
you think?
Yeah, I think he can. Unfortunately, I don't want to. I think he can take you. Because it kind of chuckled.
I think
the one
you're right.
thing about the only other speaker that I know you went for a meeting for was Mr. McGuire, and I have to say, his sermon, I call it his sermon that he gave, which was on the final one he did. I was so convicted of my sin by the way he talked. Okay, because I really haven't heard that in any of the mainstream churches that I've gone to. You know, you have to accept the Lord. You have to repent for your sins with true meaning repentance. And like I said the last time I called,
right.
You have to have the faith of a child.
Very much so.
You know what I mean? So you guys are doing God's work. Keep it up. Love to see you. Love meeting you. I had a great time, and I plan on going to many more of these conferences.
Well, it was a pleasure being with you this past weekend, Captain. God bless you, my friend, and you hang in there. And you're dead on right about the social or the Medicare aspect of things. That is coming in spades to Americans.
Can I just add one more thing, Doug, please?
Yes, sir.
Because I'll add it every time I talk to you guys. If any of the listeners has anybody in their family that is going through chemotherapy, please get a very good thermometer. Check their temperature regularly throughout the day, a couple times, 3 times a day. As soon as that temperature starts to go high, you have to get them to the hospital almost immediately. Because as soon as they get to the hospital, you have to demand that the doctors put them on a broad-based antibiotic. What happens is when you get chemotherapy, they kill off all your white blood cells. And what that means is you've dropped your immune system. So they have to get broad-based. I lost a mother-in-law to this. This is why I'll mention it. And the only reason we really did lose her was my mistake, and it was that I didn't have a really good thermometer, and we weren't checking her temperature regularly. You being an old EMS guy, you sort of know what I mean. And it's just something I just want to get the word out so it'll never happen again. And please, if you do have family members that are going through that, don't be cheap. Go buy a good thermometer for $30 and just keep an eye on it, because that's the only way you're going to tell that they have an infection, and you got to catch it right away. You can't let it go 4 or 5 hours or they're dead.
Exactly, and a lot of people don't understand that. Yep, and I go back to
and the doctors aren't putting it out. The doctors aren't telling the people because they don't want to scare them off of getting chemotherapy.
Exactly.
Okay, so you gotta do that. So this is, anyways. You guys take care, and God bless everyone, and have a safe trip home.
All right, buddy. Next time you buy the coffee.
Thank you very much.
All right, buddy.
Bye,
man. Take care.
Thanks for the call.
Bye.
Exactly, and I just want to say this too. We talked to both Derek and Sharon Gilbert. If you don't know who Derek and Sharon Gilbert are, Sharon Gilbert to me is perhaps one of the most articulate and understandable. Understandable. What am I saying here? She can take a very complex matter such as DNA and break it down for you. I used to dislike immensely the studies in higher education about DNA and about that type of study work. But I'll tell you, Sharon Gilbert really knows her way around a double helix, if you will. It's all about the blood. It's all about the DNA. And also she had mentioned, and folks, I'm going to throw this out to you too, is a little nugget talking about the beast system. If you look at Scripture and about the beast standing on, what is it, Joe? Sand. I'm referring to the Scripture. It doesn't. You don't have to look the Scripture up, but what are chips made of? Silicon. Of course, that's a component, or sand is sand, if you will. Look at the internet as being part of that, and one of the things she said was at some point, not tomorrow, and not necessarily soon, but at some point we're going to have to disconnect from the internet to retain our salvation. You'll understand that, folks, later. I mean, just think on that, pray on that, because that's something important. And, of course, Derek Gilbert, tremendously, what a guy. But Derek and Sharon Gilbert, we've got some photographs with them. Once you see them, you'll know who they are. Some very tremendous speeches or presentations that they gave. But definitely pay attention to the writings of Derek and Sharon Gilbert, for sure.
All right, moving on to our next caller, area code 916. We're coming to you next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagin Report. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, Joe, it's Lars.
Lars.
Hey. How we doing, guys?
Well, how are you doing?
Well, we're going through the wine press, but God's revealing, as you said, it is the glory of God to conceal things, but the honor of a king is to search it out the matter. And what has been in my heart, guys, is Zion, Z-I-O-N to S-I-O-N. And in the book of Romans 9, verse 33, as it is written, behold, I lay in Zion, that's spelled with an S, S-I-O-N, a stumbling stone and a rock of offense. And whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed. And guys, what the Lord's shown me, something that we've got that the enemy does not want us to have, but we have it. It talks about the controversy of Zion in the book of Isaiah 34:8. And let's see, I'm going to go there. Thank you, Lord. You guys are doing an excellent job, and thank you, Holy Spirit, for just divine protection upon our families. In Jesus' name. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance. Remember to keep that, because we're coming. The Lord is ready to stand, and it's judgment upon the house, and it's going to just like a reverb. It's going to go out to the four corners of the world. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompense, for the controversy of Zion. And I was like, Lord, what is this? This all happened the last couple of weeks, guys, where he downloaded this out of his word. Right here, Isaiah 33, verse 5 and 6. The Lord is exalted, for he dwelleth on high. He has filled Zion with judgment and righteousness, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and the strength of salvation, and the fear of the Lord is his treasure. So I would encourage all of us to really do a study on Zion. You can go to Psalm 87, Psalm 94, Psalm 9, verses 9 through 11, as a start for the listeners and for even you guys. And this will, I believe, is going to show who the true Zionists are. Because, they talk about Zionists. So there's a good Zion and there's a bad Zion, if you want to look at it that way, So that is what God's been putting in my heart over the last few weeks. And that's it. So I just appreciate you guys, and I just thank you, Lord, for just divine protection. And I ask, Lord, for every prayer request upon the listeners, and for Doug and Joe, Lord, that you would loose even more warring angels to encamp around us and protect us. In Zechariah 2 and 5, the fire and glory, in King Jesus' name.
All right, Lars. God
Amen.
bless you, my friend. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate your imparting of your wisdom and biblical knowledge. God bless you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Holy Spirit, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you. Very, very good. Rich, I just want to acknowledge the fact that I did get your email, and, of course, your guest request, yes. Thank you, Rich, for that. Let me just stop there. That way we don't have to. Rich, you just sent me an email, so there it is. Okay.
All right, going to move on. Calls here, area code 509. We're coming to you next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What's on your mind tonight?
Good evening, gentlemen. Joe, I'm glad you managed to deliver that first cup of coffee there and made it through it.
I was going to videotape the whole thing, but I couldn't do it. But yeah, it was fun. It was a fun thing.
Oh, that guy does seem like he'd be just a card. Anyway, remember you asked me last time, about the flight, what my opinion was? And
yes.
Now you kind of know why I said I have no idea. I can't make a comment because there's just too many just uncommentable on that. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking that before this gets over with, it's just going to, I hope it blows up into the scandal that it truly is.
Yeah.
When
you say that, what kind of scandal do you think it truly is?
Well, I think that there was the technology, the engineers. I don't know what exactly the technology was that they had, but it was something very important. And I think that. Well, I just hope it all comes out and it blows up, because it would just be wonderful if it did. I mean, it's too intriguing. There's too much to it. You know, it's like you said, we're not in the Amelia Earhart days. A plane like that doesn't just disappear. It'd be like throwing a beach ball out in your front yard expecting to lose it.
Very true.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and I do think that we will get to the bottom of it, but perhaps not in the way the general population might expect. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But I agree with Annette that the people who there are people who know exactly where that plane is, and when I'm saying people, I'm talking about at the government level and higher. They know exactly where it is and what happens, and they're not talking.
Yeah, they know right where it's at. And I just Jim Garrow was on with Dave Hodges, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but yeah, it's going to come out. You know, I hate when this happens. I had something else on my mind, and I can't. Joe, about your sermon, I wish I could have heard that. I personally have started listening to some of the old-time preachers. Who was it? Crossing the Switchblade. I hate it when I lose names too. But anyway, I've been listening to the old-time preachers, and the Olstein heads don't like that kind of preaching.
I think you were talking about Paul McGuire. One of the callers just referenced a speech given by Paul McGuire at the conference.
Yeah,
okay.
Paul McGuire. Okay, yeah, that is, man, the good stuff.
It's very powerful.
You know, yeah. I mean, like, I've been listening to Derek Prince, David Wilkerson, Paul Washer. If you haven't listened to Paul Washer, he was a Baptist reformist or Reformed Baptist or whatever he was. And his beliefs are a little different than mine, but, man, you want to talk about somebody that drives it home now. That's Paul Washer. He is good. Oh, insight.
We'll have to look into that.
Amazing
Absolutely.
Insight. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
He's just amazing. But anyway,
right.
I'm sure glad you guys are doing good. I missed you. And Lars, God bless you, buddy. The Lord's been putting the same thing on my heart.
Well, great.
Putting the same thing on my heart. All right, thanks,
fantastic.
guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you, my friend. All right, God bless.
Bye.
You know, folks, I just go ahead, Joe.
I just want to say it is good to be back. That break that we took, even though we were not doing shows, it felt like you couldn't really relax because it felt like you needed to be doing something, or if you know what I mean.
Like I said, going nuts wanting to do the shows, because I think it's so important right now. We can't miss a beat. I just want to throw this in here. If you look at what is taking place here in the United States, folks, please pay very close attention. One of the preferred methods of the progressive change agents, the communists, the power brokers here in the United States, mostly on the progressive side, the left side, if you want to go with the right-left paradigm, is to ridicule its critics when they point out the undeniable parallels between the goals of today's progressive movement, and that does include the people on the left, and really everybody in Congress, and the goals of the early and very, very much still alive communist movement. We understand the communist system will be the ultimate new world order, old world order, the one world order system of governance. People will talk about the historical fact that nearly every adult who at any time was in any type of position of influence over a young, tell that that person that's described to be Barack Hussein Obama, Barry Soetoro, they were communists. They were all communists or intelligence assets that were imbibing the communist one world globalist agenda into this guy. And I got to say, he was born, and this goes back to the investigations that we've been doing. He was born for this particular time in the United States, and it was all of the administrations led up to this. We have to take a look at the multiple layers within this this utopia that people are attempting, or people are falling for. Go back to Plato, folks. Remember Plato, the Republic? Make that comparison between Plato, the Republic there, and of course how that all the outgrowth from Plato. Now that might sound like a really wild thing to say, but take a look at if you've done any reading about Plato and the Republic and of course Atlantis and so on, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But here's the deal: the values that are being assailed, the norms that are being changed here in this postmodern United States, this aspect of moral relativism. I can't even speak. This moral relativism that is taking place in this country. We are all being pushed toward this cultural Marxist state, and this is to scrub out, wipe out, to just to nullify America with respect to our Judeo-Christian roots as a constitutional republic, the founding principles in which we live. We're being shaped into something which ultimately they want to push us into this one world system of governance. Folks, we cannot allow this. We must not allow this. If we look at what's taking place, and I'll end with this, and I'll be quiet, some of the people on the left, many of the other people on the left, and most on the right as well, have fallen into this idea where we need to develop the illusion that this armament by the United States would be a demonstration of moral strength. Haven't we heard this before? Of course we have. We've talked about this, folks, you and I, here in discussions on the radio, The Naked Communist, Dr. Cleon Skousen, Communist Goals, read back in the Congressional Record back in '63 by Republican Herlong of Florida. Of course, permit free trade between all nations, regardless of your communist or even their one world order. You got Rush Limbaugh. You got the so-called conservatives of the conservatives clapping and advocating for free trade and for NAFTA, GATT, and so on and so forth. The World Trade Organization. Come on. Can't you see the writing on the wall here? The reason I mention them specifically, we know what the progressives are all about, but come on, when we're fighting the people who are supposedly on our side, look at how bad this is. Look at the fact that it was just on the news here, within the last 24 hours. Joe, we saw it, 68,000 immigrants.
Illegal immigrants released.
What's this doing to our country? What is this doing to the rule of law? It's killing us. It's balkanizing our country.
Yeah, and if you want here, go through some of the stats. ICE released 68,000 convicted criminal aliens last year. Okay. You have 872,504 ordered removed by immigration authorities that have not left. You have the Obamacare enrollment, which is, all part of this. And you have, think about this, though. The 68,000 convicted criminal aliens last year that were released. Why would a country do that to themselves? You have a line, from the United States probably traveling around the ocean to Europe of good law-abiding people who are legally trying to gain citizenship into this country. Yet you hear, and probably being denied half the times or being delayed. Here you have known criminals who are entering the country illegally being basically given immunity, being allowed to be released and continue to operate with whatever means and however they're doing it in this country. It makes no sense whatsoever.
None whatsoever. And one of the things that really struck me as being absolutely insane is the fact that you might hear the left or the progressives, or it doesn't matter, whoever, even the rhinos on the right. I'm using these terms because they're familiar. People are familiar with rhino, Republican name only, and Democrat, because people are familiar with this. But think about this, folks. The deportations in this country, whether they're coming from, or regardless of where they're coming from, one of the statistics included in deportations is those being turned away at the border, not even setting foot in the United States, but just being denied entry, are considered as deportations, skewing the numbers. Everything you're seeing is a lie. Everything you're being told by the news media is a lie. And all of the news media, you might as well, you know what, they're all reading from the same menu, aren't they?
Absolutely they are. Now think of this. What is gained by this? That allowing the illegal aliens to stay in the country, 68,000 last year that ICE captured. This from InfoWars. Cops to inspect homes without notice for illegal rentals. Police task force to inspect homes without notice. Authorities in Long Island have launched a crackdown on homeowners who rent their house out to tenants who have not been registered under a zero-tolerance program that will see police conduct home inspections without notice. Landlords in Long Island community of Westbury will be targeted by a newly created police housing enforcement unit that will modify search warrant law to eliminate prior notice, aggressively use warrants and housing sweeps on a regular basis. Residents are being encouraged to report their neighbors to authorities if they suspect they are housing tenants who have not been registered with the government. You hear this? Residents are being encouraged to report their neighbors to authorities if they suspect they are housing tenants who have not been registered with the government. Local station News 12 also gave out an email address and phone number encouraging viewers to report a suspected illegal rental.
Exactly.
It goes on from there.
Exactly. Yes, it's ridiculous. All right. You want to fit a couple more calls in here because there are a few things we can get into, or let's go to the people. Let's see what they've got to say.
All right, 919. We're going to come to you next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What is on your mind tonight? Oh, 919. There you go.
Yeah, Doug, Joe. Hey, how y'all doing?
Very well.
Look, I was down in Orlando. I missed you. I was there. This is Wiley Phillips in Pikeville, North Carolina. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I just got one comment, and then I'm going to ask you one question. I missed some of your shows, so you may have talked about Israel closing all of its embassies last week, and I just wanted to see that. My comment is that Paul McGuire really knocked a home run down there. I was just really surprised. He's great on the radio, but people just don't know what they're missing if they've never heard him in person because of his gestures and his expressions. But, I'll get off now, but I want to hear what you have to say about Israel.
Okay, well, before you do, are you still there?
Yeah.
Did we lose you? Okay, before you get off, what struck you with Paul McGuire? What was the biggest or the message? What was the most important part of Paul McGuire's message? What struck you the most?
Just pretty much that the people need to wake up, and the fact that the conference overall, and I guess Paul, he just had the personality to take it down. But I took down my sisters, who, all this is new to them. They had never been around. They had never heard anybody other than me, and for them, it was great validation. And they were hearing, people like Paul McGuire and, Abby Lifton, and, when they hear other people, say the things that you've been saying, then it all of a sudden it begins to ring true with them. And, it was just a great eye-opener for them. And, Paul, the thing about Paul McGuire, he's an expert on everything, so he could have talked about anything.
Yeah, I got to tell you, to meet with him, having the privilege to meet him in person was really something else, and that was right after. Well, we met with a couple.
His presentation on Saturday, and we apologize for missing you. We were there
well,
all
it
day
really
Friday.
wasn't your fault. I was in a wheelchair, so I wasn't very mobile, and then I was trying to stay with them too, and so we didn't get out of the main ballroom. I wanted to go over and try. I knew you'd be at Doc Marquis, and I wanted to go there. It was in one of the breakout rooms, but being in that wheelchair, it's just hard to get over there. But I'll meet you. I just want to thank y'all for being watchmen on the wall, and I'm so proud of the job that you're doing, and I'll get off the phone and let y'all move on to somebody else.
Well, God bless you, and we will meet at some point in time. I hope and pray. And
oh yeah, we'll sit down
if
in
not
heaven,
in this
man.
life, then the next.
I'm gonna talk to all of you. Yeah, when we get to heaven, we'll all have a big chat.
Amen. And thank you so much
bye-bye.
for the call. God bless you. You have a great night. All right, we're going to move on here. We're going to go to area code.
Wait a second. There was a question there with respect to Israel closing the embassies. Okay. Folks, look, this is extremely important. What happens? Why? Look, rather than drag this out, ask yourself this. Why would Israel close the entirety of their embassies? What would that accomplish, or what are they hoping to accomplish? Is it to, as one or two, as I've heard, frustrate the Arabs, the Islam, the Muslims there, to take away potential targets? Is that simply the case? I don't believe that to be the case.
Possibility, but we have only go out there and saw this happen.
Well, never. Not in the history of the modern world has this ever happened with respect to Israel. Folks, I believe this is a precursor. I'd seriously start connecting the Psalm 83.
Yeah, and you're cutting out, but you said it best. Bill Salas, that when we asked him about this, and he was saying this, commenting freely in public, watch for a strike on Iran. Plain and simple.
There you go.
He didn't say he didn't hold any words back. He just said, watch for a strike on Iran, a preemptive Israeli strike on Iran.
That's correct.
And that's his opinion, and that's from his research that he has done. His last book is Ralestein, and his latest book, Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed. Former guest on the show a while back, but he's been in the middle of researching this for years, and it could be longer than years, it could be decades. And we will have him back on the show to talk about this, hopefully sooner than later.
You know what I'll do too? I'll put, at least on Facebook, Facebook, I can do up a couple of photographs in the conference for Salah, since you mentioned that.
Good. That's how you sound. I was just messing with you. You're coming across kind of show. You say. You know what I mean?
Okay, give me the...
All right, let's take a call. One more call. Let's take one more call. We're going to go to area code 304. Wait, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. We're going to go to area code 623. 623, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Oh, wow. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wow, I just did not think I would get through. This is Suzanne in Arizona, and I'm overwhelmed with the Holy Spirit tonight. I listened to Russ Dizdar. He had a 3-hour segment on oppression and depression, and I'm overwhelmed with how the Holy Spirit is already beginning to lift this off of me, and you guys have been such an inspiration for me to get the word out, and I have been living in a complete shell, just hiding in my room, hiding out, just afraid to do anything, just living in fear, in bondage, in guilt, and yet I have Jesus in my heart, and I just didn't understand what was going on. So anybody out there that, if you could listen to that of Russ Dizdar's, I would so highly, highly recommend it. It is a life-changing thing. And I just want to tell you guys, just keep on doing what you're doing. Praise God. I missed you last week, but I'm so glad you guys were able to have a little bit of a vacation in there if you did. You deserve it. You guys work so hard and diligent, and your guests are phenomenal, and I'm so grateful to have you guys a part of my life. It's meant the world. I've been listening to you guys for a good year and a half now, and because of you guys, I have found Steve Quayle and Tom Horn and just all of these people that have just changed my life, my world, opened my eyes, and it's amazing. It's amazing what God's absolute grace can put upon us if we let him. And I'm my own worst enemy. I don't know about you guys, but I get in my way all the time. And I am alone out here. I live with my parents. They're elderly. And I would love to be able to come to that conference in Montana. My son graduates in Wyoming. I'll be so close. Unfortunately, I don't have the funds, so I'm praying for a favor and something to come through for that, because I would love to meet like-minded people that live out here to meet. It's so hard to meet good Christ followers out in the world, period. It's very scary. So with that, I don't have any questions. I just basically wanted to tell you guys that you're touching lives, you're saving souls, you're doing God's work, and God bless you guys for doing it. I mean it. It means the world to me, and it means the world to so many people out there.
Thank you so much.
Well, God bless you, ma'am.
God bless you guys.
You will be in our prayers and our thoughts, and know that you're not alone out there. You're not walking alone. And Russ Dizdar, Depression and Oppression, folks, go to shatterthedarkness.net. That's shatterthedarkness.net. And, of course, his caller, you pointed this out, depression and oppression, when it's spiritual and when it's not, you've got to take a look at it.
When I heard it last night about oppression, I just started crying tears, because I knew that I have definitely, have been trying to follow Christ for the last 25 years with constant obstacles, not understanding what is going on. And I'm not a nutcase, and I'm not a mental basket. And it was just such an eye opener for me. And I'm just so grateful. I commend you guys. I'm just grateful for what you do, and you're in my prayers all the time. I just pray for your safety, and I'm so grateful that you guys are on the air.
Well, thank you so much, dear. We will be praying for you as well. Please stay in touch, and God bless you. Thank you so much for the call.
God bless you, too. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks. Have a great night.
You too.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I just want to say this. And my wife had told me this, and she looked at me last week, and for reasons that we're not, I just don't want to get into, but she said, your listeners are the best of any other show out there, of all other shows out there, and I really believe that. Meeting the guests, or meeting the listeners that we did at the conference, if we could have met everyone, it just didn't seem possible. It just was so many people. I got to tell you, we really care about each and every one of you, and we really think we're humbled by meeting you. Humbles us to the point where we walked away just saying, "Wow, what did we ever do to deserve the friendship? Your friendship, your
blessing."
Yeah. It is absolutely incredible, and we just want to say that we care about each and every one of you. Thank you so very much. And if we could, we'd buy each one of you a cup of coffee and sit down and talk one-on-one, that'd be great. Maybe one day we will. But with that, leaving Florida tomorrow morning, going to be in North Carolina tomorrow night. Can't wait to bring Stan on and talk about what's going on in California. So.
Yeah, and hopefully we have a better time with the computers and connections tomorrow. I know it's a little rocky at first, and I appreciate all you guys hanging in there, but we will be live tomorrow night from North Carolina. And thank you for hanging with us even during our week of darkness, as you'd say, the week of no live shows. We really appreciate you back. We'll be here for the rest of this week, and we can't thank you enough for all that you've done, whether it be spreading the word about the show verbally, emails, all your words of kindness. It has been because of the Lord's blessings and because people like you out there caring about the country and the people in this country that we've been able to continue to do what we're doing, and we can't thank you enough.
Right on. With that,
have a good night.